I'm Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. In today's video, I want to talk about 8 of my favorite clean amps in the Axe-Fx 3, FM9, and FM3. We're working on the Axe-Fx 3 today. The reason I chose the nice round number of 8 is because on the Axe-Fx 3 and the FM9, you have access to 2 amp blocks with 4 channels each, meaning you could have 8 individual amp sounds in a single preset. And that's what I've set up here. At the moment, I'm playing my Strat with Sir Michael Landau pickups in it, plugging straight into the Axe 3. I'm going to start with the Jazz 120 based on a Roland Jazz Chorus, an iconic solid-state clean amp. I'm using my own impulse response that I made. This one is available for free on AxeChange, and I have the wonderful South Church reverb on. So what I found with the Jazz 120 is just crank up the bass and the treble and pull a bunch of mid-range out, and you have that kind of iconic 80s jazz chorus clean sound. We can play around with adding some chorus and some delay to this, of course, but I'm going to start on the neck pickup. And if you've got a particularly bright guitar, like I have at the moment, leave the bright switch off. If you've got a darker sounding guitar, I find engaging the bright switch really helps with this particular amp. Let's hear it. Really bright and sparkly. It almost starts to break up with the Drive at 5 with this guitar, but it's based on a solid state amp. It has a kind of different character to a lot of the different cleaner sounding amps that are modeled in there. While I'm talking about this, I'll talk about the kind of one go-to trick I use on any clean amp. That's to go to the Dynamics tab and turn the output compression to about 1 or 2. What you will find is if you're using clean sounds and dirtier sounds, this will kind of help compensate for relative volume differences in there and differences in perceived volume. So I'll just chuck it on at about 2 for this particular amp. I think I have it at about 1 for all the rest of them. And this is just going to change the feel a little bit. Like I said, it's going to even out the dynamic response, which for really, really clean sounds, you probably want if you're blending them with distorted sounds in other parts of a song or a recording. What I like with this particular amp is to kick in the analog mono chorus, low depth, low delay time, rate anywhere from 1 to 2 hertz. And this kind of gives you that classic like Metallica clean sound, especially if you use like the middle and bridge combo. It's almost like an acoustic piezo sound. Adding the studio compressor in front of this evens things out even further. I generally like to use a comp with any clean sound, but again, that depends on your preferences and the guitar you're using. And of course, some dual detune. I've gone for a slightly non-symmetric detune, 13 cents on one side, 11 cents on the other. Let's flick those off and let's move over to probably my favorite clean amp in the entire Fractal ecosystem, and it is the Band Commander. Normally, I just have it at the stock settings. All I've done here is I've turned the drive up from 5 to 6 because it works a little bit better on the neck and middle pickup with this guitar. Such a lovely clean sound. I figured because I'm talking about clean sounds, I needed to have at least one Fender amp model in here. You can try out the Deluxe Reverb, the Vibrato Verb, the Princeton. All of the Fender amps sound great clean. I just happen to like the Band Commander, and with the compressor, I think it's even better. And then with a little bit of this new Maxon OD 808 model, it's awesome if you like blues stuff. The reverb on there is gorgeous. The drive on there is wonderful. The Bandmaster, or the Band Commander, I should say, it's very, very near and dear to my heart. Another really gorgeous, clean amp model. If you want more of that kind of super clean tube thing. Really chimey is the Shiver Clean on here. I'm just gonna go straight up and put the compressor and the chorus and the delay on for this one. This to me kind of has properties of the last two amps we heard. It has that really lovely touch response you get from something like the Band Commander, but it has the sparkly aspect of the JC 120. We'll start on the neck pickup. I would describe this one as like the modern prog clean amp. So check out the Shiva if you're into those kind of tones. We have to include something kind of voxy. So I've got the AC20 12AX7 treble on here. This is my go-to chimey style amp. The matchless amp models and the Vox amp models in here are great as well. I just find the AC20 is a bit easier to dial in. So drive at 3, high cut at 3 speaks for itself. Now you notice that is on the brighter side. I do have the bright switch engaged. If it's a little bit too bright for you, just flick the bright switch off. I find those settings are pretty good as starting settings. You can also play around on the speaker tab with the amount of speaker compression. And for Vox style amps, I like to crank that up to around 4. Another thing that I find quite attractive about this particular amp model is what you can do is you can actually just wind up the drive control. Let's take it up to 7 to the point where it's kind of crunchy, but then you play around with your volume control. So let's hear what it sounds like flat out, and then I'll bring my volume back. You can hear single coils, it's a bit noisy, but that happens. It's such a great all-round amp right there. Let's move over to this second amp block, and I would say for cleans, coming in just behind the Band Commander is the USA Clean based on the Boogie Mark IV. Kind of has some similar DNA with the entire range of Fender amp models in there, but I find you can actually kind of crank up the master volume. You have lots of headroom here and the drive, and the kind of killer feature on here is to play around with the output EQ. I've got it turned off at the moment, but I'll kick it in, which will just kind of add a little bit more bass and pull out a little bit more mid-range. And of course, if you're into Dream Theater and you like those kind of John Petrucci cleans, add some chorus and pitch detune, some delay and some compression to that, and you have a great DT style sound. Probably the dark horse of the bunch is this Gibbtone Scout based on an old little Gibson amp model. Totally stock settings, neck pickup. That's still pretty bright, but all you have to do, if your guitar has a tone control, wind that tone control down, you have a nice kind of jazzy clean. And I can't play jazz to save my life, but I'll just play you some 7th chords so you can kind of hear it. Furthermore, if you like humbucker cleans, you have to try the Gibbtone Scout out. Neck humbucker of my Les Paul gives us this. Really easy amp to dial in. Alrighty, let's go on to the last two. I needed to get a Marshall style clean amp in here, and one of my favorite real world clean amps is the Marshall JTM45, the non-bridged version of the JM45 in here. Drive down at 3, bass down at 3, so I just turn those two controls down on the neck pickup of this Les Paul wide open is a great fat clean tone. Right up there with the Scout for me in terms of just satisfying humbucker cleans. You chuck a drive pedal in front of it and it loves drives. I find most of these amps, even though I'm demonstrating them with clean sounds, they take the built-in drives really well. And you can kind of hear with this amp anyway, it almost has this kind of like vowel-like quality to the notes. And I think if you want more of that quality, the ODS 100 Clean is really amazing. With just about any guitar, but we'll hear it again with the neck pickup on this guitar, then I'll kick in the compressor, and yeah, it's got a thing going on, and if you like that thing, you need to try this particular amp. Again, with the Strat and some drive, this one just absolutely sings. So what I will say about all these amps, you can hear there's so much overlap between them. And another thing is what is a wonderful, balanced, clean tone to another person can be excruciatingly dark or excruciatingly bright to another person. So use your ears and not your eyes when you're dialing in all of these amp models. Try that little trick with the output compressor. Play around with parameters like the speaker compression parameter in there as well. And let me know, what's your favorite clean amp in the Fractal ecosystem? There's so many that I didn't get to touch on. I didn't get to demonstrate the high watt amps in here. I didn't get to demonstrate something like the Supremo Trem, which I think is another underrated, great clean amp when you set it up right, or the Carol Ann models, or even things like the Fender Bassman or the Plexi. Let me know what's your go-to clean amp in the comment section, and maybe in a couple of months I can do a follow-up video and we can incorporate all of your suggestions. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this Tuesday tone tip, and I hope you all have a fantastic week. I'll see you next time. I'll also put this preset up on AxeChange for you to try. Take it easy.